Oddsbreaker. Welcome back to Before the Bell. Of course, this time we're talking about UFC 210. Buffalo, the big event. There's a lot of not fight stuff going on up there right now. Like they got John Jones and Cormier getting after John Jones. He's not even there yet. And just Mousasi does not care what anybody's saying about anything. Just calling out Chris, full bore, full strength. But, of course, that's the co-main event. Let's get into that right away. It's Chris Weidman and Mousasi. Weidman's ranked 4th. Mousasi's ranked 5th, according to UFC.com. One, I don't agree with that. Like, I don't really understand how this is possible, seeing as how Gegard is on a 4-fight win streak and Weidman's on a 2-fight losing streak. So how is Chris still, even though it was like Yoel Romero and who did Chris lose to also? He lost to Yoel Romero.
Luke Rockhold.
And Luke Rockhold. So I get it, the guys are higher ranked than him, but Gegard's on a 4-fight win streak. So I don't know how he's still lower ranked than Chris is at this point, just because of how the wins and losses go. And then when they first announced this matchup, I was a little taken aback by it, because you always want to match up a guy that's winning with a guy that's also winning. But they're doing a guy and it wasn't like, oh, Chris had a hiccup with one loss, and then Gegard kind of won by accident on one win. That would kind of make sense. But he's on a 4-fight win streak. And then you have Weidman's on a 2-fight losing streak. How did this matchup come together? Well, they're ranked 4 and 5. You got to put them together to figure out what's going to happen, because obviously the weight class at this point in time is being hamstrung by GSP Bisping. So Yoel Romero's sitting up there with nothing to do, doesn't know what's going to happen next with him. So I understand kind of why they're putting this matchup together, but do you believe in this ranking right now? Do you think the ranking is correct and I'm just an idiot, or do you kind of think the ranking is a little bit screwed up?
Well, I do believe that both guys are top 5, honestly. But, yeah, you do make valid points there for sure. And it is unlike the UFC to match a guy at a couple-fight losing streak with a guy that's on a roll, like winning. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. I think what the factor is here, being that Weidman was a former UFC middleweight champion. And I mean, he wore that strap before. So I think that still holds him up there in high regards. And it should really, because, man, the guy he dethroned the man. He dethroned Anderson Silva, and he didn't just beat him once. He beat him twice, So, and his fights with Machida. I mean, he beat Belfort along the way. So he's had some quality wins. He had a setback, of course, in the Rockhold fight. And then Romero, man, he's a beast, obviously, too. So he ended up catching him with that knee, and it put him out as well. But, I mean, I think the UFC just holds him in high regards. They realize that he is a top 4 or 5 fighter for sure. And I can't argue that. There's no doubt. I mean, I think he really is. Now, it does worry me a little bit that we've seen him kind of on this little slump, that he's been on. And he's been injury prone, of course, a little bit too. He's had some, neck surgeries or whatnot too. So he's had some issues that going on physically for him that hasn't been that great. But I don't know. I mean, this is my problem with this fight. I think Weidman, that was in his prime not long ago, I mean, he wins this fight, you know what I mean? But the Weidman that we're seeing right now, that's on a little bit of a funk, that he might be looking like he's on the decline a little bit. I'm not sure. I don't know if that's fair to say yet, though. So this is going to be a good gauge for me to see what's left in Weidman. I mean, because Gegard, like you said, he's a top 5 fighter in my opinion as well. He's working his way up the ladder. I think he's really hitting his stride right now. Since the Uriah Hall loss, where he got caught, he was winning that fight and obviously got caught with that tremendous spinning kick. His defense is tightened up. He's really focused a lot more. I mean, he's kind of on a tear. I mean, he's really looked great. So I get it, and the fans actually were betting him that way as well. I opened Weidman about $1.25, almost a pick 'em, honestly. It was one of those like pick 'em type of lines, and they flipped it, and Mousasi was a favorite. But right now, as we're sitting at 5 dimes, it's -110 either way. So it's exactly a pick 'em right now. So early action came in on Mousasi. We're starting to see some late action come in on Weidman. The books are getting pounded with action, 2-way action on this fight, and there's sharp action on both sides as well. So it's public action on both sides, sharp action on both sides. I mean, this fight is just getting all sorts of attention. It's a great fight. I mean, I really am looking forward to this fight for sure.
Now, did you look at have you been watching the lines? Did they after the open workouts and the presser that they did yesterday with each individual fighter? Did you see the line get a lot more juice? Because I feel like that Gegard was really quiet for a really long time. He's a very respectful fighter, so he doesn't really talk much. Then, maybe 2 or 3 fights ago, Nima, his manager, and him had a conversation. He was like, look, you want to get fights, you got to go out there and start being a little bit more vocal about it. He got more vocal, and people started like, wow, this kid is actually talking the game. He's also showing us the game. Now he came on and said, look, I guarantee you, I'm telling everyone out there, I guarantee you, Chris Weidman will not take me down during this fight. And I was like, when I saw that come out of the, and I just read it today, and the presser was yesterday, so I'm not sure what day it actually came out. But I was like, Whoa, hold on. This is Gegard Mousasi talking about Weidman's not going to take Chris Weidman. Chris Weidman is not going to take you down in a fight. Weidman is not going to take you down in a fight. To me, I was like, that's crazy. Then I went back and looked at it. Mark Munoz couldn't take him down. He ends up rear naked choking Mark Munoz, who was an amazing wrestler and a national champion in college for Oklahoma State. It is like, I'm like, wow, like Gegard really is working on his wrestling, and this actually might happen, where he's actually predicting things that are going to happen now in the fight. Was there action when that statement kind of came out, and all of a sudden people started betting either one side or the other?
Not really towards Mousasi, though. There's been more, since it's getting closer to fight, more action has come in on Weidman more than anything else. So I think people are loving the new attitude Mousasi has, though. The fans are getting kind of eating it up, and then it's kind of him being like a little bit more free and open and not caring, like you said. So it's kind of neat, but I'm not sure if that's good for him because he's the reserve fighter that, he's always been on a roll. He's always, I hope he doesn't lose focus and it gets kind of over his head with that stuff, but I don't think it'll matter. I mean, once they get into the cage, the fight's a fight, but I do believe that he probably does keep the fight upright more times than not. I mean, can Weidman take him down? Weidman's an outstanding wrestler. So I think he can and is capable of getting him down, but at the same time, he's going to probably struggle doing so. And I don't think he could repeatedly take him down. So meaning maybe early in that fight, maybe, into the first round, maybe he gets a takedown or two. Mousasi is really good at getting back up if he is taken down as well. I think as the fight progresses, if it keeps going a little while, Weidman's going to get too tired to try to keep on taking him down. So they're going to have to stand and bang. And I think it will play out in the feet. But I think what everybody's counting out here is Weidman's a heck of a striker too. I mean, right now, if you look at matchups, a lot of people are saying, okay, it's striker Mousasi versus wrestler Weidman. It is, but it's not. Because you just said Mousasi's wrestling has gotten so much better than Mousasi now outside of the top tier wrestlers. I think he's one of the better wrestlers at 185. I mean, honestly, for being a striker, he can take the fight to the floor. He can keep the fight upright. I mean, his wrestling has improved tremendously because he's been putting the work in. And at the same time, Weidman has been one heck of a striker for a while now. People are forgetting the knockout power that he has, the outstanding strike ability that he has. I mean, if you compare fights, we can't do MMA math. We all know it doesn't work, right? But if you look back at a similar opponent with Machida, I mean, honestly, Machida outstruck Mousasi. I think he clearly outstruck him. It was competitive, but he clearly outstruck him. In the Weidman fight, Weidman outstruck Machida. And Machida's a heck of a striker. And it wasn't the Machida that was on the decline and just, what we're seeing now with Machida. It was kind of more of a Machida in his prime that Weidman was doing that to. So Weidman has a striking that even though Mousasi's known for a striker, and I think he is a fantastic striker, I think the striking is actually pretty competitive and interesting, to be honest with you, because they match up well together. And the wrestling should neutralize each other out a little bit. So we're probably going to see a striking affair. And I think actually Weidman has a little bit more pure power than Mousasi. Now, Mousasi's tough as nails. It's not going to be easy to finish, and we all know that as well. So I wouldn't exactly count, though, the striking of Weidman out because, again, I think a lot of people are just looking at it like, oh, Mousasi has this in a bag. He's a better striker. His takedown defense will keep it upright, and he has it. I think it's going to be competitive. But, again, if we see that spot where Weidman just doesn't look right, and, we see him just not looking up to par like what we expect from him, then of course Weidman, can lose that fight. But I don't know. I'm kind of back and forth on this fight, to be honest with you. And I'm actually going to pick Weidman to win this fight. I'm going against the grain because it seems like most people out there are just counting him out a little bit too much. And again, I've been one of those guys that kind of been teetering back and forth on this fight because I can see it go both ways. But as of right now, I'm going to lean a little bit towards Weidman. I think that people are counting him out a little bit too much. But again, we'll see what he's made of this fight, how much he really has left, and if he's kind of going to be the fighter that redeems himself and gets back on track for a title run.
And that's actually, I'm going the exact opposite way. I'm going with Mousasi on this one, specifically because I think Weidman is on the decline. Not anything against his skill level. He is falling off a little bit, and the problem is now at the top 5 of the weight class that if you have a 0.5% decline, that's enough to put you down to number 5 and move Mousasi up to number 3. And that's just kind of how this weight class works because it is super competitive right now. I am interested to see how this whole thing pans out. Really, because I do agree with you. This fight can go either way. It can end really early by either guy. It can end in the middle by either guy. It can end very late by either guy. This is really one of those pick'em fights where it could have kind of stayed at minus 110 for both guys the entire time and not really moved much just because of these guys are super competitive. It's not only ranked, rate next to each other, but they're also matchmake. You look at the paper and you go, oh, look, how is this match made up? Matchmake-wise, it's a very good fight for both guys. Where both guys are strong, where one guy is strong, the other guy is kind of strong. One guy is weak, the other guy is also kind of weak. So it all comes down to, really in my mind, it's going to come down to, can Gegard keep it on his feet and keep it the pace that he wants to keep it at? if Weidman can't take him down, because obviously to me, if Weidman takes him down, he's going to win the fight. Because I'm going to take him down and lay on top of him. But if he can't take him down, is Longo going to have enough training with him to get him to adjust, to be able to start getting a lot more power shots off? Where now, because of the new system, where it's not the 100-punch style is going to win, it's the power shots. If it comes down to a striking stand-up, that Weidman ends up winning it because, like you said, he is more powerful. So the more damage is going to come from Weidman, which is going to allow him to win the fight and win the rounds. It's a question of, can he do it early? Is he going to miss? Is he going to be hesitant? This fight for me is very, very interesting, man. But you're taking Weidman, I'm taking Mousasi, and we'll see next week which one of us is right or wrong.
Yeah, I just hope it's a fun fight. I think it will be, So, yeah, definitely. I think it will be. It has all the makings to be fireworks. And I'm kind of glad it's a 3-round fight because I think it kind of benefits Weidman a little bit more not going, being a main eventer, being 5 rounds. I think right now it would be a little bit tougher as the fight progresses. Mousasi has cardio all day. We've known that for a long time. Weidman has pretty good cardio. He's been 5 rounds before as well, but we're starting to see him slow down at times, even in the past a little bit. As the fight progressed a little bit, he does seem to slow down. So I think a 3-round fight definitely favors Weidman a little bit here. Not that he's going to surely win it, but I think it's a better situation for him. So, yeah, I could see him. I could see him kind of winning a couple takedowns being the difference, really, too. You know what I mean? And both of them being tough enough not to finish each other and kind of surviving, and maybe that's it. But, yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, this is an awesome fight. It's a shame that both fighters aren't at their peak right now. Like you said, I mean, it's a shame that Weidman is coming in off 2 losses because I would really like to see this play out with maybe Weidman still wearing that strap.
You know what? You got to kind of, and as we're sitting here doing this, I'm kind of flipping back and forth on those 2 losses because you're talking about Rockhold and Romero. You're not talking about 2 slouches. Not like he slipped, from some, tough finale guy that all of a sudden got a title shot and he slipped against that guy. It's not what happened. These are 2 super tough guys that he got beat by. It's like the best guys in the world are fighting each other. And someone's got to lose and someone's got to win. And that's kind of what happened with Weidman. So I'm having a real hard time really judging this fight because of the fact, Gegard is on an upswing and Chris is on a downswing. But the downswing is against the guys who are just above him in the rankings. So it's like, where do you go with this? This fight is very, very interesting. A great card for Buffalo. Obviously with, I think it's Gillespie and Holbrook open up the card on Fight Pass. All the way up to Cormier Johnson. It's a great card all the way around. There's a lot of these type of matchups within the fight card where you're kind of not really sure which way you're going to go because not only are they ranked close to each other, but they're also match made very, very well. Moving on to Cormier and Johnson, I got to be honest with you. The thing that's really overtaking this is the fact that John Jones is being flown in for part of the press tomorrow. He's going to be able to. I'm not sure where it is. I got one of my other buddies in the media hit me up and said, "Oh yeah, we're able to interview with John tomorrow. He's going to be here at some point at some place. We're going to go sit down and talk with him. And this guy's under suspension, but he's allowed to come in. And this is like one of those weird things that you and I both know. When you're under suspension for any reason by the commissions, you're not allowed to be at fights, not allowed to corner fights, not allowed to be around. We went through this whole thing with the Diaz brothers. One of them was suspended, and he wanted to corner him, and they're like, and Nevada was like, "No, you can't. You're suspended. You can't be around at all." Technically speaking, you're not even allowed to train with anybody. That's a professional fighter. When you're under suspension, they don't really enforce that rule, so we kind of get it. But that's really overshadowing what is actually going on with the champ of Daniel Cormier and the number 1 contender of Anthony Johnson, where this fight is another pick'em for me. I can't figure which way to go because Johnson's going to be better. Henry Hooft has got Johnson better in his striking, so he won't burn out and get exhausted like he did in the first fight. And Cormier also obviously knows he's going to hit me as hard as possible. He's got one-punch knockout power, but I know I can take it, and I know I can recover from it and still win the fight. This is a great matchup. How do you see this thing playing out?
Yeah, this is another one. It's similar, man. I mean, it's another pick'em type of fight, like you said. Right now, actually, the line is -120 for Johnson. Cormier is even money, and that's at 5 dimes. But across the market, it looks like there is some pick'ems out there, -110s, that are floating around in some casinos, -115. So there's two-way action on this fight as well, and heavy two-way action. And as I was mentioning, the sharp side, Sharp's betting both sides of Weidman, Mousasi. Sharps are betting both sides of this one as well for Cormier Johnson. So it's just 2 awesome fights. I mean, for a co-main event,
everybody at home understands public. Can you explain what sharp means when we have sharp betting?
Yeah, I mean, the sharp bettors are the ones, obviously, that find the line value that usually when they hit a number, it closes in their favor, meaning that maybe they took -110 and it closed at -150, 160, and they consistently win more than they lose. You know what I mean? Now, I mean, again, the percentages there, I mean, sharp action loses. Don't get me wrong. It does lose, and public wins, but the sharper action is definitely just as it sounds. I mean, it's the smarter guys, the wise guys that are coming in and finding value in a number, and it usually closes in their favor, and they're usually more right than they are wrong. And the sports books respect the wise action a lot more than they do the public action as well, because they know these guys are straight out winners compared to, public action, they're going to win, lose more frequently than to win, or it's basically totally opposite. So when sharp action comes in, the books tend to favor them a little bit more and maybe move the line in that direction somewhat, depending on what the situation is, because you could get buried with a ton of public action and you have sharp action hitting the other side, but the public action just so overwhelming at times that the sharp action just gets buried in the mix. I mean, that happens as well, so every fight is different. It's a different scenario with that kind of action. But in this fight, yeah, there's reportedly been sharp action coming in, legit sharp action on both sides of both fights. So that's where it's interesting. And that's good. I mean, as far as for the sports books go, a lot of them are going to probably just vig out and end up making money no matter what happens, because they're going to have so much money on these fights. So it's not going to really matter. But I do have a lean in this fight, though. I really think that Anthony Johnson is going to probably pull it off. Now, I picked him last time they fought as well, and obviously I was wrong. I mean, Cormier's chin, I don't know how he withstood that punishment early on, because AJ almost had him out. I mean, Anthony Johnson just knocks people out. That's what he does. And he almost did it to Cormier. He almost, he was that close to doing it. But Cormier, the warrior that he is, survived it. And then obviously, used his abilities to take the fight to the ground, got his back, choked him out, type of thing as well. So he fought smart, and Cormier is a very intelligent fighter. And if Anthony Johnson makes that same mistake again, Cormier can basically duplicate that same performance again and possibly win that way. I mean, I think if you take Anthony Johnson's back, that's his kryptonite right now. I think if you're able to scramble to his back, you could take his back and choke him out. I mean, he's lost, quite a few times by rear naked choke in his losses. So I think that's an easy path to victory if Cormier can withstand the early pressure and then be able to take his back in a scramble or whatnot again, and get that. I think he can win that scenario, but I don't think he's going to last. I think Cormier, even though he is a warrior, I got a ton of respect for him. I just think, man, he's been in so many wars recently. I mean, the John Jones wars that he was in, right? The Gustafsson fight was a war as well. I mean, that was a brutal fight for him. The Anderson Silva fight, to me, it's Anderson Silva, so you got to give the guy some credit. And Anderson Silva actually looked okay in that fight. You know what I mean? He got beat. It was clear. I'm not saying Cormier struggled, but he didn't look as good as I thought he would look, to be honest with you as well. He's had a little bit of time off. He's had some injuries along the way. He's not getting any younger. So to me, Cormier is a little bit suspect here, to be honest with you. I think he's really there for the picking for Anthony Johnson to come in here and just knock him out and get that strap from him, honestly. So I think that's what's going to go down. I think it's going to happen.
And we're also starting to see a little slippage of all the commentators that have these extra duties now in MMA, where they're doing TV time for Fox Sports or for whoever, and then they're trying to fight. They're starting to slip a little bit. It's because they're getting overextended and trying to train while you have to do commentating duties. You're flying, you can live wherever, and you got to fly down to wherever it is to do your show. It takes a lot of time out of you. It takes a lot of time away from preparing and getting ready for a fight. And Daniel's had to go through that as part of this training camp. He's had some commentating duties he's had to handle while he's getting ready for this fight. Johnson hasn't had any of that. He's been completely focused, 100% focused on doing nothing other than beating DC. Now, DC is an Olympic wrestler. He understands how to take a hit. He understands how to get banged around. He understands how to push forward, how to press forward. Last time Cormier beat him, it was in the third round before he finally took his back and was able to choke him, because Johnson got tired. He got exhausted from realizing that, hey, he got mentally broke because he hit Cormier with the best thing he ever had in the world, hit him with all three hard punches. Cormier comes back from it, recovers. All of a sudden now he's like, okay, what do? Like I hit him with everything I got. He's still coming. So now he's got to get through that mental capability of, hey, he's not going to fall down every time, which Henry obviously is going to work with him. With Henry Hooft, his Muay Thai instructor, is going to help him with all of that. Then you've got to deal with Greg Jones, who's his wrestling coach, that is going to teach him, like, hey, look, when Daniel takes you down, there is space if you underhook and set up to a single and get out of there, that he always gives you a little bit of space when he first takes you down for you to be able to get back up to your feet. Hopefully Greg Jones has taught him that, so now when he gets taken down, he's going to be able to get back to his feet. This, again, is just like the co-main event. If Johnson keeps us on his feet and not get exhausted from swinging power punches, but throw a couple jabs out there, he has a real good shot of actually winning winning the rounds and being able to finish later. Cormier has to do the exact same thing in the first fight. Weather the early storm, take him down, keep beating him up, keep holding him down, smash him up a little bit on the ground, and when Anthony gets tired, he'll either roll over and give you a back or give you an arm and be able to finish it off. This fight still is really, really tough to pick, but you're leaning towards Anthony Johnson. I don't know which way to go on this one, even after we're having this conversation. So I'm going to have to leave this one alone because I don't know where to go with it. But really, is there any parlay action you can have with the co-main event and the main event that makes any kind of sense?
Nah, I mean, unless you're going to parlay them together, you know what I mean? Like if you're going to parlay, since I leaned Weidman in the first fight, but it is a toss-up. I mean, if you're going to parlay Weidman and you're going to parlay Johnson, yeah, I mean, maybe there's something there, but no. I mean, they're close enough numbers that you just bet them straight. You know what I mean? I think, and again, if it's a pass, I understand it. I mean, these are difficult fights, so it's not like you go out there and hammer a lot of money down on these fights because both of them are obviously in this spot and title contenders for a reason. You know what I mean? They're that good, so they realistically could go either way. So yeah, it's nothing that you can unload and bet the house on for sure. I mean, because like I said, even if Anthony Johnson is winning the fight, he can make a mistake and get beat. I mean, Cormier is, like we said, he's got that experience. He knows his path to victory now as well, so he can weather that storm. He's proven it before. So, but I still don't think it's going to happen. I honestly, if I had to pick between one of these fights, I would bet Johnson more than I would bet Weidman. Since I'm leaning Weidman, I think that there's more value possibly still on Johnson because, man, I mean, let's just face it. Look what he's done. He's just destroyed people. I mean, he really has. And I don't think that, again, I just have that suspicion that Daniel Cormier at this point, I mean, he's just not, his chin's not going to get better, even though it's great. I mean, he hasn't shown like he's got a bad chin. I'm not saying that at all, but he's getting a little bit older. And like you said, and I've thought about that as well, the commentary duties that he's had, you know, with working with Fox Sports and all that. I mean, he does have to show up for work. Anthony Johnson could just focus, and he's got that chip on his shoulder right now. I mean, he's the hungry guy right now that is looking to wear that strap. Cormier's had that strap now for a little while. He's defended it. You know what I mean? I think he's not as hungry, even though, I mean, he's a tremendous athlete. He's an elite level athlete for what he's accomplished in his wrestling. So the guy's just a special talent. So I'm not saying that he won't be motivated for this fight, but I think more motivation is in Anthony Johnson's corner. I think he's had more time to focus legitly on this fight. And he's just a nasty, nasty man. I mean, he can knock you out with anything, a kick, a punch, an upper. I mean, just anything, any part of his body that he hits with so much power. And he's got good enough wrestling that I think he can keep it upright early enough, obviously, to do some damage on the feet. And I just don't think that Cormier is going to withstand it this time. I mean, again, I could be wrong, but that's why I'm leaning a little bit more towards Johnson this fight. So if I was going to make a bet out of these two fights, it'd be Anthony Johnson because you're not laying that much. I mean, it's $120, and I wouldn't, again, bet the house on it, but I would go that way. And I would probably pass the Weidman Mousasi fight. But, I mean, they're both tough. They're definitely both tough.
Well, those are our picks this week for before the ballot. It's going to be a great card no matter which way you look at it, no matter how you do it. There's a ton of great fights on this card. Especially looking at like Jury and De La Torre and Brooks and Oliveira. Like these guys are both going to bring in, not to forget the women fight with Gonzalez and Cavello, both undefeated. This is a great card they put together for Buffalo. Obviously, we're talking about the John Jones saga that's going on. Daniel Cormier, his big statement was if John Jones comes in the ring after the fight is over, there's going to be problems. He can't come in the ring. And he made the biggest point of, hey, look, he's still suspended. If he's suspended, how can he even be in the arena? How is New York, the new commission, going to be able to handle all this? What is actually going to happen with it? We don't know. It's going to be, we all have to wait and see. I'm going to be tuned in, watching on pay-per-view. I was trying to sneak down there. My son is actually going to the fight with his wife. They're going to go watch it and check things out. Thanks to Sean Shelby for making that happen for me. I really appreciate it. But I was trying to go watch the fight with him, and he's like, it's going to be amazing to watch. And that's the first thing he texted me today is I can't wait to see John Jones walk in the cage after Cormier wins to see what goes on, just to see what's going to happen. They're like, we got to first Cormier's got to win, and then we got to get John's got to get in there. So a lot of ifs have got to happen to get that far into it, but it's going to be interesting no matter what.
I agree. Yep, definitely interesting, and they're both two intriguing fights. And the funny thing is, this card kind of floated under the radar for being. I mean, those two fights are outstanding, but there's not much talk about UFC 210 compared to UFC 211. I mean, a lot of people are looking forward to 211 a lot more with that stacked card that they have in Texas going on there. I mean, that is a stacked card. So I think people are kind of overlooking this card a little bit. But now as we get closer this fight week, there has been some buzz around this card because it's not a bad card. I'm not saying that. But, you know, in comparison, I've heard more talk about UFC 211 than I have this card. But these two fights in the top are carrying this, I mean, by far. I mean, those two are worth it alone. You know what I mean? Just for the price of admission, basically, just to have that kind of talent, you know, and that kind of just special athletes performing in their sport, just to watch them and be a part of it all. That would be great. Definitely.
This is a great card. I agree with you, Nick. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll see you guys again next week.